A Quiet Place Day 1 follows a terminally ill woman in the loud, bustling setting of New York on the day the world went silent when meteorites fell, which carried ferocious alien predators that hunt by sound. This particular franchise is known for not being very lore-intensive when it comes to the aliens that would come to be known as Death Angels, with the first 2 installments offering very little information in regards to their nature. From the first film, we're already well along into the aftermath of the aliens' arrival, following one family as they try to survive in this new reality of silence. It's always been a very character-focused franchise, with the alien threat serving as more of a backdrop. This newest installment is no different when it comes to these deep character studies in the midst of humanity's extinction. However, I was surprised by director Michael Sarnowski's approach, who seamlessly integrated this prequel to the rest of the franchise in ways I didn't expect. And not only that, this film contains the most information we've ever learned about the Death Angels' biology. When it comes to the lore surrounding the Death Angels themselves, information has been sort of teased with the release of each installment. In the first one, of course, the big reveal is their sensitivity to sound, but the biggest revelation in that regard was that it could be weaponized against them, as they have a very crippling weakness to high-frequency sounds, making them vulnerable to attack by more conventional means. Otherwise, their armor is virtually impenetrable. A significant part of the story for the sequel was getting this information out to others so that they could also fight back against the Death Angels. The sequel also showed their weakness to water, revealing that they can't swim, which is why some people were able to survive by escaping to islands. The character of Henry, played by Jimon Hunsu, describes his survival experience where they made this critical discovery. The third prequel film actually expounds more on the water weakness, as we actually see a Death Angel enter the water in pursuit of the protagonist, and once becoming fully immersed, appears to drown or become disabled. One persistent mystery is that they never appear to eat their prey, leaving the bodies of their victims where they lie. This seemed very unusual, to ferociously attack yet not eat any of their prey, because you had to wonder, well, what do they eat? They have to be sustaining themselves in some way. We also know very little about whether or not they can reproduce on this planet. Do they operate as more of a hive mind, or do they act independently? These are mysteries that still persist among fans. The prequel installment did offer a unique opportunity to examine the Death Angels more, as it detailed the first day of their arrival. But one particular scene gave us more information than we've ever gotten in regards to the Death Angels themselves and how they operate. One of the most thrilling and fearsome scenes is centered around Joseph Quinn's character, Eric, when he stumbles upon what seemed to be a nest of sorts. It could have been where one of the meteorites landed, but what was most striking is that we actually saw the Death Angels eating. This scene was directly addressed by Sarnowski in a recent interview with Slash Film. The interviewer noted that this was one of the most up-close and personal looks of the Death Angels that we've gotten so far, and they were seen eating what appeared to be egg-shaped spores. The interviewer asked what was up with this particular scene, to which the director said, "I think a big thing with these creatures was finding that balance of you don't want to over-explain them. Part of what's so fun about them is that they're very alien and we don't fully understand them, so I wanted to hint at a couple things. For me, the egg thing, and it's very not made a focus. I didn't want to make that scene like, hey, here's what's going on. And that's important because it's not important to Eric at that time. He's just trying to save Frodo, and you're just kind of getting a hint that there's an ecosystem of these creatures around him." But yeah, for me, what I was getting at with that was you can see all these sorts of pools of this pink glassy liquid, and if you look closely, you can see that there's bodies in those pools. And the idea is that in the other movies, you kind of get that the creatures take people, and they never really say what they're doing with them. And I think everyone's just like, oh, they're eating the people or something. But I like the idea that the creatures are kind of leafcutter ants that are sort of farming, using the organic material of people to grow what is their food source, which is these kind of weird melony egg mushroom things that they sort of feed the little ones with. So it just kind of is hinting at the end of the day, these are farmers, and they have a little bit of a family dynamic to them. I liked that idea, especially coming off of the first Quiet Place that's about a rural farming family. So yeah, that was kind of what I was hinting at without making too fine a point of it. I know there have been some theories floating around that the aliens themselves were possibly a biological weapon sent to planets in order to destroy all of the dominant life forms. We saw so little of them that we never saw any typical behaviors of biological life forms in regards to eating or reproducing. So I find it actually very fascinating that not only do they eat, but they have very specific dietary requirements. It's now clear that they can't be sustained by any plant or animal life found on Earth and need to eat sustenance that's also alien in origin, that also seemed to arrive on the meteorites that brought the Death Angels as well. And not only that, but we do see that there is some sort of use for the human population in regards to their farming efforts. As the director explained, some humans and other organic material was basically used as fertilizer to grow their own food source, which was the weird melony egg-shaped mushrooms. Knowing this information about the Death Angels and they're operating more like leafcutter ants, this does confirm what John Krasinski has previously stated about the aliens. In a past interview with the Empire podcast, he said they are absolutely aliens. They're from another planet. Where I developed the idea of them and what I wanted them to look like was most alien movies are about takeovers, agendas. They're a thinking alien creature. And for me, this idea of a predator, this idea of a parasite, this idea of something that is introduced into an ecosystem was interesting. Sarnowski's approach does seem to align with Krasinski's in regards to treating the Death Angels as a parasitic entity that is introduced into a wildly different ecosystem, throwing everything out of balance and having to adjust themselves in order to survive. This is definitely going to be interesting moving forward with the franchise. I feel like they added a lot of elements that they could build off of, not just in terms of the Death Angels themselves, but also continuing humanity's mission to stave off extinction. By learning more about these creatures, humans are better equipped to deal with the threat and to develop strategies to fight back. Eric, it was revealed, is one of the survivors that was on the island seen in A Quiet Place 2. We don't see him, obviously, but we know that he's among them. And he's the one that has this deeper knowledge, even though it wasn't his focus at the time. I think he did witness them feeding on the egg itself. So that is definitely some crucial information to know about their biology. And it would be interesting to see if his knowledge would be useful moving forward with the continuation of the franchise with A Quiet Place 3 in development. In the interview with Slash Film, the director was asked if there was any interest in pursuing what happens with Eric moving forward, or if he was happy where his story had ended. To which he said, quote, "I definitely approach this story as a contained experience. You could watch this without having seen any of the other Quiet Place movies, without ever seeing any other one, and you can appreciate this for what it is. I definitely think that there is a strong possibility that he could be on that island, and he could be in the later films. And I haven't had any chats about that yet, and there's nothing official, but I think there's a lot of characters in this universe that are really wonderful and fun to explore, and I'm sure they'll come up with some very cool ways to bring them back." Overall, the story really struck a chord with me because this is why I love this genre so much. Science fiction presents limitless possibilities for storytelling, but I'm always drawn to these fantastical stories that still feel grounded in reality. It is a wonderful way to showcase the weaknesses and strengths of humanity. This entry is no different, as it highlights humanity's capacity for courage and compassion. With that being said, I hope in future projects they can maintain the focus of telling human stories while also expanding on the lore and continuing to unravel the mystery of the Death Angels while still keeping that same level of intrigue that continues to fascinate fans. But I'm curious to know what you think about the Death Angels and the newest details that were revealed about them in A Quiet Place Day 1. Do you have any theories about what we saw from these creatures in the film? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe for more sci-fi and fantasy news and lore. And if you're looking for other ways to show your appreciation, you can check out my Patreon page, where members get access to exclusive content and perks. Thank you all so much for your support, and as always, have a very nerdy day.